You know, Paul and Aaron from the Fin Factor, they've been doing a great job for a handful of seasons plus now. Gentlemen, how are we today?
Doing great. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing well as well here. I have to say it's been spring break. I've had the kids out and about. I've seen the Minecraft movie twice in a week, so I'm ready for an adult conversation, Brody.
Let's talk some hockey. Let's
All
talk about
right.
the Sharks last season. It's hard to quantify it in so many ways. The win-loss record looks one way, but if you watch the games, you feel a different way. If you look at what lies ahead in the draft and the summer and salary cap flexibility, there's just a lot of different ways to feel right now. How are you guys aiming your feelings?
Well, let's see. For this season, for me, I think the games were a lot more entertaining than they were last year. Last year, I feel like they were not in a lot of games, even towards the end. This year, I felt like almost every game was pretty competitive, and even with two, three goals behind, they would somehow come back and make it very interesting coming down the stretch. They also had a number of games, and I forget what the final number was, 31 or 32 considered close games. And close games would be within a goal or within two goals if one of those was an empty net goal. And what we talk about on our show is like next year, the next step would be take half those games and turn those into wins. That's 15 wins just in the season. So another 30 points in the standings. And I think they're getting there. I think that's kind of the progress. And another thing that we like to focus on is the progress of the rookies and the prospects that are coming up and playing for the Sharks. And I think there was a number of those players that took leaps and bounds, steps ahead, better than I think the previous season before that. I mean, there's more prospects this year than there were last year, but um, a lot more fun and a lot more exciting to watch. Better style of hockey.
Yeah, absolutely. You take a look at, last season and the goal differential shrank significantly, I think, when you consider the amount of empty net goals that were in there, right? Those do sway those numbers, not only for the team, but also for Macklin Celebrini, his minus 31. That's a little bit skewed with all the empty net goals. He's trusted out there on the ice. I think that's the message there. But you take a look at the on ice product. And yes, absolutely. There were so many close games, so many one goal games, so many games where they had the lead going into the third and then lost it. And that's not so much to knock the team, but it's to say, wow, look how much closer we've gotten from last season. Now, they still ended in last place, but that is the gap. How bad they were last season was that they were in last place by a mile. Whereas this season, I think there's been some hope, right, in terms of what's to come, the future of the team, and you can see it developing with even guys like we forget Eklund's still a young guy,
Yeah.
right? Eklund, Celebrini, Smith. It's a great young core, at least with the forward group. So much to look forward to.
Aaron, I'll go back to the point you made, and I've been saying this for a while, that if you can change the result of all those close games or one-goal games, then yeah, that could be your calling card next year. But I think the real conversation is, how do you get to that point? What is the one thing right now, if you had to say, this is what's going to turn that around? I think it's probably tightening things up without the puck. I think team defense, that's what's going to get this team to that point you're talking about. What do you think is going to get the team there?
Same thing. I think team defense, we talk about team defense a lot on this. It's not just the defensemen, it's not just the goalies,
Yeah.
it's the whole team. Coming back, closing up those gaps and especially the high danger chances, giving up a lot less of those. That's where most of the goals come from in the NHL. So you kind of shore that up, and that's gonna be a big difference. And for me, I think a big part is defensemen to start. I feel like the forwards are, at least the top six, are pretty solidified going into next season. There's a couple openings, but not as many as the defensemen. The defensemen need more shoring up, and maybe the third and fourth line, you can use a couple more of those players that are forwards that are defensive responsibility, and getting those guys in there. And free agency is going to be a big one this summer. So we'll see what Mike Greer has up his sleeve in terms of who he's going to sign. But I think that's, for me, is the same defense and team defense.
Yeah, I think building off of that, I think free agency is going to be a big deal. You're not going to be drafting a guy that's going to help you out in a few years. You're looking at right now, which is
Right.
something that we haven't seen with Mike Greer because he's been so busy with the rebuild, right? Getting these young talents, the prospects, and they're getting the picks. But being able to go and grab somebody who is a veteran in the league, being able to be a bit of a stalwart defensively, whether that's on the blue line or as a forward, one of the forward group, right, in the bottom six or so,
Mhm.
being able to go out and grab one of those guys, which I think even just as early as last year was not as attractive, I think, as it is right now. But you talked about defense, and we're forgetting about Yaroslav Askarov, right?
Mhm.
So that's a guy that I think if he blossoms just a little bit more, maybe the beginning half of the season, you're going to start seeing him warm up and getting comfortable. And if he is what everyone seems to think he's going to be, that's going to be a very big part of keeping the puck out of the net as well, on top of having those veterans helping out defensively.
Mm-hmm. I think this happened last time we talked. You guys were getting, like, I have some ideas and thoughts of where this can go, and you guys are just nailing everything. Like, we are seamlessly transitioning into everything.
I swear, we did not show these notes.
We're on the same, always on the same wavelength. Because, no, I did want to talk about Askarov specifically, and it's almost like, if I could be selfish for a second, I wish we got to see more of him this year with the Sharks to understand fully what he's like, what he's capable of, ride some highs with him, kind of go through the lows with him. But at the same respect, I'm actually glad maybe that he got a taste of it, he got enough of it, and he lets us know just enough that, all right, this is the guy moving forward. So besides that, what do you surround him with next year? Like, optimally, what does a tandem look? And if he's going to be there for sure, who's another goalie that could be in San Jose that either supports him, somebody he can learn from? What does that dynamic look like?
That's tough.
Yeah, we talked about this one actually earlier on one of our shows, and I had talked about Romanov. Is it Romanov or Romanov? That's the big
Romanov's how I go with. I just try and ride Randy Hunt's coattails. Let's be honest.
Okay, there you go, Romanov. Okay, so I thought he looked great. Now maybe not for NHL duty alongside Askarov. I think Mike Greer had alluded to that in one of the press conferences that he had. I think it was the locker clean out, saying maybe it's not the best idea to have two young goalies for next season. Aaron, going to talk about, I'm not going to steer your thunder, but talking about getting another veteran in there to help him out, somebody that he can work with. So I think that's going to be key for him.
Yeah, I agree. I think a veteran, you're going to have kind of a 1A, 1B situation. So it's not so much a starter. Askarov and even Greer said we're not going to throw him out there for 60 plus games. He's not quite ready for that, both mentally and physically. I don't think he'd be able to handle that. So having somebody come in that's a veteran presence, for me, what I would like to see is a veteran presence come in, someone who could take over the crease for a week or two at a time if Askarov either gets hurt or kind of goes through a slump and needs kind of some adjustments, especially with what I think is the best goalie coach in Spear in the entire league. Getting a couple reps with him, because there's not a lot of practice time in the NHL. You play so many games and you're on the road for so long that you don't get a lot of practice time in. And goalies are probably the hardest in terms of mental fortitude and being able to bounce back from a bad game and coming back and being able to just keep performing at a high level. Now, we did see Askarov get some good amount of playing time this season, obviously not a lot, but he had a moment there where he started to kind of tail off. And I don't know if he was dealing with an injury or something, because he did go back to the AHL and play in the AHL All-Star game, and then was out for injury for a little while. So I think he was dealing with a little something. Obviously, it wasn't public, but that's my feeling, was he seemed to kind of tail off a little bit. And that's what next season we don't want to see, but we might happen to come across. And you need to have a veteran goalie that can come in and take over the crease for a little bit.
All right, fellas, I can't believe we've had an 8-minute conversation about the Sharks, and I don't think the names Celebrini or Smith have come up even once. How has that?
I think I did. We started on the forward core, right?
Started on defense and goalies.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't narrow in on them, because, like, literally every Sharks conversation lately, it like starts or finishes or has a main focus on those two at some point. And I understand it. I think, though, what all of us realize, having seen the Sharks in their better days and their best days, is that, yes, it is great to have those two players to build around for the future. That's the nucleus. That's the core. Maybe Macklin is your bona fide superstar, Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid type team leader. Okay. But I think we also realize that if this thing's going to go the right way, it needs to be supported in so many different ways and so much more than just those two players. So what are we seeing in the building around those two? Because I think those two speak for themselves, right? That's pretty clear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Again, I dropped Eklund's name earlier, and I think he's key. I remember watching the two of them playing on the same line lately, not quite as much as I would like to see, but the two of them just so dynamic in their speed and their creativity. And when you put them on the same line and they're able to be creative with each other, it's deadly out there for most other teams. And then when you add in, again, you saying building around those guys, Tyler Toffoli, he saw the light, I think. And Tyler Toffoli signed a 4-year deal because he knows what the team is going to be like when that deal has run its course. So I think that they're doing the right thing in terms of bringing in a veteran here and there. And then this coming free agency, I think they're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to see more guys coming in to help support those players. Um, Mike Greer had said that next season they're going to be playing Will Smith more as the centerman.
Hmm.
So if that's the case, then you've got your 1-2 right there, right? And you just build around that with either the younger talent, like Eklund, for instance, or I don't know if Kovalenko is going to find his way back or not, but we'll see. But yeah, building around it with some veterans, some guys that can help these guys in the league. And another thing is the friendships that they've built. I think that's another thing that's helping these guys get through this. And you talk about surrounding them. I think that's kind of one of the things that they're surrounding them with is just, again, good vibes. We talked about Joe Thornton being the director of vibes. I think you got good vibes going on in this team right now. For a last place team, they're having a lot of fun.
Well, and
Yeah.
to the point of that team barbecue photo at the Toffoli house from the day after the season, like how many last place teams get together almost fully like that and celebrate with each other? Right? That
Right.
makes me feel
As
like
Randy, I'd say Randy calls them the funnest last place team he'll ever see, right? That's absolutely true.
I mean, there's definitely something to that. Couple more things, and I've been asking this question to a lot of different people because I do think it's fun, but I also think it's even more insightful. If there is a Sharks sleeper right now, somebody who's under the radar or we don't talk about enough, either somebody that was on the team already or maybe somebody with the Barracuda or in the pipeline, who is the Sharks sleeper that is maybe becoming a favorite of both of yours?
You want to?
No, you go ahead.
I have two.
Okay, go
Kind
ahead.
of
Yeah.
Musty, Chernichoff.
Okay, yeah.
I think. I think those are the two.
But they're not sleepers with the Sharks and with the Barracuda. Oh, well, with the Barracuda now for Musty
Right,
at least.
right.
I think Trey was there. But yeah, definitely prospects that we're very much looking forward to. And it kind of goes back to the previous question is what they're going to surround them with.
Right.
High level talent in these forwards. These guys are, I mean, we saw Musty and Smith playing together in the prospect game. And I mean, they were dominant together. If you get Musty on the line with Smith next season,
Hmm.
it's gonna be nasty, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely those two. But in terms of guys that are currently on the team that are maybe unheralded, I'm not sure who. You know what? Wenberg.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
really like Wenberg's game. His game is fantastic. Actually, you've said quite a bit about him. If you wanted to say anything,
Yeah, I was gonna say earlier, like who I think they should go get is a
yeah,
veteran, kind of like Wenberg, a guy who is, I guess, a third line center, but he can also jump in on the second line when needed to fill in the gaps. I think they need probably one or two more of those players that could be third line players that could jump into the top six when needed. But yes, I like Wenberg's game. I think he brings a lot of stability and a
yeah,
lot of defensive responsibility, similar to like what Granlund was doing the last couple seasons for the Sharks before he was traded. I think Wenberg has been a fantastic addition to the team and an older guy. I mean, older. It's funny. He's not that old, but
28,
yeah, compared to the rest of them, that's pretty old. But
10 years Celebrini senior. I
right, yeah.
mean,
I think somewhere around someone that age, late 20s, early 30s, has a lot of experience in NHL. Another Toffoli type player, something like that. But yeah, I think Wenberg's a good one. That's a good example.
Fellas, if they're still putting on a hockey jersey and going out there and playing hockey, they're young to me. They're all young
Yeah.
to me. Mark-Edouard
Isn't it
Vlasic,
weird?
young to me.
It's weird when, for me growing up, like the players were always older than you,
Right.
and now you're older than the coach. That's weird to me. That's like, wow, I
Uh,
feel old.
Having the youngest head coach in the NHL will also do that to you.
Yeah.
It'll put things in perspective. I've just got two more things. The captaincy is now wide open officially, and Logan hasn't physically just been around, obviously, as much as a player who would be participating. So it's not going to be an instant overnight change of how this goes, but I don't know what the Sharks do with this decision. Do they give out a C? Do they give it to somebody specifically? I think we all agree who it eventually is going to go to. What's the process look like if you guys see it right now?
We just talked about this last week. I think for me, what I think is going to happen is Celebrini obviously is going to be the captain at some point. Problem is, the youngest captain in NHL history was Connor McDavid at, I think it was 19 and 200-ish days. I can't remember off the top of my head. If they name Celebrini captain to start the season, he would be the youngest captain in NHL history.
Ever.
Uh,
Like
ever.
ever, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a lot
Yeah.
for him to shoulder, which is why they did not do it this season. That's my kind of, I guess, conspiracy theory, if you will. What I think they're going to do to protect him a little bit more is to do what they did this year and have alternate captains, many alternate captains rotated around, maybe give him an alternate captain letter to kind of get him started in that process, I guess, and then do a whole season of that, and then either the end of the season or beginning of the following season, they name him captain. That's my take.
Yeah, I know it's a lot for him to shoulder being coined as the youngest captain in NHL history. That's a lot to bear on your shoulders.
Yep.
I don't know that that bothers him, to be honest with you. I don't know that that would hold him back or hold him down. So we talked a little bit on the show about, captaincy, and it's not always your best player that is your captain. And I know a lot of people look at whoever the best player is and go, oh, he should be the captain, he should be leading, right? For me, Macklin should be captain simply because of the work ethic that he has. I think if you take a look at the kid's always working, right? Off season, he's going to be doing everything he's been doing with his dad, work for the Warriors, conditioning. He's going to be getting stronger and he's probably going to be getting taller, right? He's still young, he's growing. But you see him after a shift and he's got the iPad out
Yeah.
on what appears to be a nothing shift. And he's sitting there looking at the iPad, learning from it. I don't care how old you are. It's that mentality that makes you right for being the captain of a team, right? And if everybody follows suit in the same way to put in the same amount of work, to be as detailed, I've likened him to, Kobe Bryant, for instance. This is a guy that went and just kept doing his practices. He was talking about, I could do two practices in a day, but if I get four in, they'll never catch me, right? And to me, that is Macklin. He is that guy that wants to put in that ridiculous amount of work to be the best that he can be. And it's working.
Yeah.
He's 18 years old and he was killing it in the best league in the world. So for me, I don't know that being the captain and having that on his shoulders would mentally bother him that much just because of the type of guy that he is. But he's absolutely the type of captain that you want when it comes to the work ethic and all of those things that surround being a captain. I think Logan Couture would agree. Now, as far as next season, yeah, maybe they don't give it to him, but I think he could certainly handle it if they did.
I just like all this because it's all good options, right? These are all good conversations. There's multiple different routes. There's not a lot of totally bad options. I mean, some teams don't even have this many places and ways they could go with it. So we're lucky to have that. Okay, last thing for each of you here. Either give me a prediction or an expectation about next season. So if you have a prediction, like if you think you know how it's going to go, that'd be great. Or if you just want to say, here's what I expect of the team, I'll take that too.
You want to go?
You go. If you know, I got to think.
I think
Brody, you're dropping it on me right now, but
it's hard to say right now because we don't know what's going to happen in free agency.
Sure. And that's fair.
Depends on that to me is like after July 1st, maybe the first week after July 1st when you can sign free agents, that might change my expectations. But what I think and what I thought this last season, I thought they were going to be the bottom 10 team, 8, 9, 10 around there. And Greer actually said the same thing, but they just, had some injuries, had some other things happen, couldn't get those close wins, so it didn't happen. I think next season they could be closer to a bubble playoff team. So instead of selling at the trade deadline, they're going to be looking to maybe even add or on hold because they're still fighting for a playoff spot. So my expectation is to be probably in the middle of the division. I think they'll be ahead of, man, who was down there? It was Anaheim. I can't even remember that one. Seattle. To me, I think they could be better than those teams and jump in the standings. Now, I don't think they'll make playoffs, but I'm not going to rule out that they won't because I think they can get close to that.
Well, to your point, Anaheim and Seattle just went through coaching changes too, right? So there are different teams going in different directions. This might be the Sharks' time to leapfrog. Paul,
Exactly.
Go ahead.
my expectation, honestly, for this season, I was thinking they could be a bubble team, and I know they ended up in last. But if you take a look at all of the close games,
Yeah.
you flipped those to an extra point here and there, they actually are in that bubble conversation. But I think that I trust, and if we can go wide here, I trust this guy right here. You got this, Jason?
We see
This
him.
guy right here.
GMMG.
Yeah, I trust him. He's done a fantastic job so far, at least in terms of building and whatnot. He's brought in a guy like Tyler Toffoli. He's made it enticing for other guys around the league to come in. My expectation for next year, I'm drawing a line in the sand. We will be a bubble team. We're not going to be in that bottom 5, bottom 10, whatever conversation. We're going to be right there fighting for it. I think he's going to bring in enough talent that, again, with Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini and Eklund, all these guys having another year of experience under their belt, I think we will be a bubble team. I'm very much looking forward to that. So that's my expectation. I want to see us fighting for playoffs as soon as next season, and I think it's doable.
All right, of all the Sharks content creators, I will give the Fin Factor this: best set, best apparel. I mean, I could say best host. I don't want to throw anybody else under the bus,
Thank you.
but
Oh, sorry, best producer.
you guys are right up there and everything. Paul and Aaron and Jason, by the way, I appreciate all your guys' help, and thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Brody.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us
Appreciate
again.
you.